Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time of day or night you're listening to or watching this, I wish you the best of it. I'm Grant Lamontang from multitool.org, and you are watching EDC TV. So, today we are talking about trends in the EDC industry, and we've each got some different topics to look at, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The three of us have been around for a long time. We've seen a lot of things, and I guess we're going to talk about it because that's what old men do. Talk about the glory days. With me today, as usual, is my good buddy, Chris. How are you today, Inky?
Very well. How about you?
I'm just screwing up my lines right, left, and center. One of these days, I gotta actually plan this out instead of just winging it. Also with us, as usual, is Abe Elias. He's the field editor for Blade Magazine. He's the owner of Diving Sparrow Knife Works. And he is once again forgotten to finish growing his beard. How are you today, Abe?
Good. How are you guys today?
Very good.
I'm still surviving. I'm actually
That's
on
good.
vacation
That's good.
today. You'll notice behind me there's no kayaks today. That's I'm on location in the backwoods of northern Ontario.
Oh, that's cool. Just as a quick note to start the show out is we're filming this one day before Remembrance Day. So everybody, hopefully you've bought a poppy, and throughout the rest of the year, this is one day, but that doesn't mean you can't thank veterans throughout the rest of the year. So if you ever come across somebody wearing some clothing that states they're a veteran, or you see a veteran license plate, please do remember to thank them for their service. And Grant, while I'm at it, please pass my thank you on to your father.
I absolutely will. We'll be taking him to the local cenotaph tomorrow morning for the service. So that's a great message, Abe. Thank you for remembering that. Even though this is going to be airing towards the end of the month,
Yeah.
we're reminding people of things. It's currently November 10th today, and as you can see, my mustache is almost barely, sort of. Almost there. As usual, we're going to be running, you can see our special logo here from multitool.org that we use for our Movember campaign. We're trying to raise $2,500. Hopefully by the time you see this, we'll be there. If not, we will make sure that we put all of the information on how to donate and find us. Here. So, getting back to our topic for today, industry trends. As I said, we've all been around for a long, long time, and I'm going to start off today with my thoughts on it. Because, when I was a kid, I got my first Swiss Army knife. Not this one, obviously, but I got my first one at around, between 5 and 8 years old. And, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And my father, as Abe mentioned, not just military, but also having grown up outdoors. So my father always had knives around the house, exceptional knives, at least as much as there were back then, because, nobody bought cheap knives because they didn't last, And, so I guess my father imparted with me a feeling on knives that I carried when I was a kid. It was, you were that weird kid with a pocket knife, and that kind of always bothered me. I thought it was weird, and I kind of hid the fact that I had a fascination with pocket knives most of my life because of it. The only knife collector I'd ever heard of in the media back in the, what was that? That would have been probably the 80s, was a guy who actually killed somebody on the street and then blamed it on somebody else. If you're Canadian, the name Donald Marshall will not be a surprise to you, and that is not the kind of role model I wanted to have. So it wasn't until, probably the mid to late 90s that I discovered my local knife shop in Woodbine Mall in Toronto. If you guys are listening to this, Sean and Rodney, I hope things are going great for you. But meeting up with those guys was great because they had not only a selection of interesting knives and a whole new world for me to expand into, but they also had knife magazines. Which, this was a foreign concept to me, but definitely a very welcome one. So, rather than have me talking through this whole thing, Abe, what have you got for trend tonight?
Well, been in, like you said, for many years. And what I'm noticing now is that there's more than just the knife companies embracing EDC. Like there's
of course.
I'm happy to see it. It's the tools, because if you look, there's a lot of times, especially when you go through YouTube and you see other creators, they're covering tools for EDC carry. And it's nice to see that tool companies, outside of just like the multi-tool companies, but I do have a nice little miniature saw here. So they've kind of brought this down in size because sometimes there's barriers to carrying a large one. Weight, for instance, location, you want to be a little bit subtle about it. But the fact that we're starting to see a lot of, like, here's the Nipex. It's 5-inch. I don't have the 4 inches. When I bought the 5 inches, I stopped looking at Nipex because of this, because I thought, okay, I got it covered. But you got things like even Stanley, a standards tool company, Stanley, making a nice little 1/4-inch handle. And then, of course, one of the latest ones is the Icon kit. So I think it's this trend of people jumping on board and creating EDC style tools. I mean, you see tool guys making, it's not, no longer is it just knife guys making videos on this. You see tool guys, city guys, like computer guys are saying, well, I carry this in my pack as I go to work. There's I think there's a guy called the Urban Prepper. So that's my trend. I've noticed. I really like the fact that more and more people are embracing EDC and supplying equipment to that genre.
Well, that's pretty cool. And Inky, what have you got for us this evening?
Well, one trend I do like is flashlights, the way they become usable throughout the years, Sometimes too usable, but I think that it's great that they really went crazy with them a little. And the trend is a trend I don't like is it seems like nowadays, and in my day, nowadays, these kids...
You kids, get off my lawn.
These kids believe knives are fidget spinners. No, it's this whole fidgety, flippity, middle finger openy. It's all like a toy. I mean, for us it was a toy, but we respected it, and we used them, and, we still do. But it just seems like everybody wants to show how they can open these things with their middle finger, And it's like a different thing. It doesn't have the same feel anymore. Like, we would have to do a lot of research, and I don't know, just it feels different. Get off my lawn.
What's funny about that is I have no idea to what you're referring to, but now I guarantee you that now that it's been said, and my phone's probably overheard at every second Facebook reel I see or Instagram post is probably going to be all about, look at how I can flick this open with my middle finger.
It's not really spoken about. It's just this, they're showing their knives and they're talking about these steels that they have no idea where it came from, where it's gone. And everyone's opening these knives with their middle fingers. Like, you open it with your middle finger, then what do? Stick it in your eye? Because you don't have it in your hand the proper way when it's done. The whole thing about opening a knife, one hand is you have it where you want it when it's open.
Yeah, they're doing this, Grant. They take that finger and they push up on the hole and flick it. That's what they're doing.
It's kind of cool.
So,
but it's
I'm sure it looks great on the TikToks, but like you say, it doesn't really give you a very good handle on it.
I mean, look.
Well, here's where my hand is on it, right?
This looks good on TikTok, but I'm not going to show off.
Yeah, but
I can just see you walking out and checking the mail like that, Inky.
Here's where my hand is on it when you do it, right? Your hand's all the way up here. Now, if you're not in an emergency, it's not a fight. Obviously, you can drop your hand back, but I get what Inky's saying. I totally get what Inky's saying.
It kind of defeats the purpose of a one-handed opener. It turns it into like a fidget spinner. Right? It's more like playing with something like this. It's more like today's butterfly knife, in a way.
Okay.
But without a purpose. Or maybe they have a purpose for it. You never know. You could have a knife and a gerbil. You could have a couple of different things together that you really like. You know what I mean?
Well, touching on that, not being a balisong guy myself, I really do actually enjoy watching guys, flipping around their balisongs. And
I love it.
But I'm not really sure I've ever been convinced that is, I don't know, what am I going to say here? I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this, by the way, so I'm going to put the email address right up here, so that way you can get a hold of us and tell me off for this. But I have often thought that a lot of that balisong flipping stuff is just for show and really not all that practical to begin with.
Yeah. At least it came from a real place, It came from, Philippines, or they say not really, but it all came from somewhere, and there was a purpose for it.
I get that it came from the Philippines, and that is, it might be a magical place, but it is also a real place.
Yeah. No,
I just
now I read a little stuff saying,
You mean the Philippines are real? I thought the Philippines were where Peter Pan lived.
no,
What the hell is that all about?
you could spread a
I
little sunshine anywhere. Make it all fun time.
I just see, taking 5 to 10 seconds to open a blade.
Enough time
Not an overly practical use of your time. I mean, if you're using it for EDC, you're opening boxes, that could take a while. If you're using it for defense, I mean, it just seems, I can see maybe an intimidation factor that, you're showing that you have skill with it, but, that's assuming that the guy doesn't stab you in the meantime while you're flipping stuff around.
Yeah, before
Well,
you know
I
it.
think what that does. Sorry, go ahead.
No, again.
I was just thinking. I think it has this. When you're saying intimidation, that's the same thing as pumping a shotgun. All you're doing is telling me when you pump a shotgun is you didn't have a round in the damn thing in the first place, and it's a good thing I didn't punch you or shoot you before you got a round in there. So you just got lucky and you managed to load the shotgun. Now you got to point it. To me, I see that with that's okay. So I'm not into knife fighting, but I'll tell you, the people who really know how to knife fight, in my opinion, aren't the guys doing the old
No.
with their hands and blocking and stuff like that. The guys who knife fight? Prisoners. You want to learn how to knife fight, you watch how a prisoner shivs somebody. That's
one distracts him and the other guy
guy
walks up behind him and
Yeah.
sticks a random piece of jagged metal between his ribs repeatedly.
Yeah, it's a sewing machine tech. They got the sewing machine technique. Once
Keep going.
once they get a hold of you, it's a Singer sewing machine on your ass.
Now,
Exactly.
I'm sure that a lot of people right now are hacking away at their keyboards or, moving their thumbs super fast to send me hate mail. I am not in any way suggesting that is a useless skill. Any skills are fantastic, and honestly, I watch just as many, balisong flipping videos as everybody else because it is a skill. It is, and it's beautiful to watch. I'm just saying that, I doubt the practical capacity of it. That email is edctv@multitool.org.
The latch drop is cool, right? You see the latch drop?
No.
It's kind of hold. You kind of hold it between these two fingers. And
Okay.
You let it go, and it comes up, and you got it. In reverse. Then you can get out there and fight in the jungles with it. But what's next? Like Homer Simpson shooting his light off or something like that? Jeez.
Yeah. Well, and that's so. Here's the thing, because I've seen this happen on so many gun channels too. We've been around for a while. We've seen the trends, and so I see a lot of new creators. And it's not to insult new creators. I really love the fact that we got people excited about knives. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not apologizing for anything, because you'll notice when I light up on somebody and you go screw yourself, okay? But what I have a problem with it now is that I see like, okay, so I look at Civivi knives, and I look at Wii knives, and I look at the patterns, and I'm not knocking them, but I'll look at them and I'll say to somebody on a video, I'll say, oh, that blade is very reminiscent of an Osborne 940. And they're like, you're insulting the blade, you're insulting the makers, you're insulting the... No, I'm just saying that blade looks like it took some inspiration. So it's hard to do, even for me as a knife maker. It is so hard to do something new. Everything has been done. And what you end up doing is, this is a trend. Now, if you want to talk about it, is you got a lot of knife makers just trying to be different, to have something that's like nobody's done it before, and they're not thinking I'm different, but it's useless,
Right?
Or you've diminished the purpose of a knife, and sometimes it's not useless. It's like the one knife you have. I don't know if you have it on you. It's the big fat razor blade one. When we talked about it, said I looked at that and said there's nothing useless about the knife, but I could see if you carry it in a pocket where you've got a lot of stuff, that when you go into the pocket to get it, because the blade sticks this far outside the handle, you could catch that corner, because the corner looks sharp enough that your keys could catch it, and you're going to open it up, right?
That was the Concept medium Corvid, I believe, the green one with the black blade.
Yeah. Black.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't have it with me today because, as I said, I'm away from home today. But
And you didn't travel with your knives? Shame on you.
well, I traveled with some.
You gotta have at least a suitcase full of the knives in the back of the car when you travel.
No. See, I think ahead. I've given my dad a whole lot of really great knives over the years. I've actually posted a lot of them on Instagram and on our forum at forum.multitool.org. I'd be happy to link to some of them. In fact, somewhere around here, I don't have it handy, but is the Kershaw chive that I gave my late mother. Actually, I said it in a box of goodies to both of them, and she claimed it as soon as she pulled it out because she didn't want my father hurting himself with it.
There you go. So, and that's a good knife. You know, I mean, there's people actually. Speaking of which, is a buddy of mine just getting into knife collecting. He saw my knives. He was kind of fascinated. But you know, the thing that really fascinated him about knives was the fact that we were working on some stuff around the range, at the gun range, and I pulled my knife out, cut rope, sliced this open, cut some cardboard, and he was really impressed with the fact that, you know, instead of walking around looking for something to do it with, I had it on me, and so he went out and bought his first knife, and it was a chive.
Is that yours? The range boss?
Oh, that's
But you
neat.
got to hold it up a little higher.
It's a range boss. Is that yours? Did you miss it? We could probably get rid of this afterwards. See it?
What?
Tell me when you see it.
I can't read it.
It says range boss.
Looks Range Boss.
I see
yeah,
Range
I'm
Boss.
Range Boss. Yeah, that should be my name.
Cold steel. We could get rid of that part, of course.
I
Okay.
can't remember the knife I was carrying when he was like it fascinated him with what was going on. So, but either way, like I said, he got a chive. That's all there was to it. That was and now get this. He's into LEDs because I carry LEDs, and he was the one who, I think I told you, he watched our one of our episodes, EDC TV, and now he wants a micro. So I've created a monster.
I tried to
Yeah.
give my wife a chive. She took my scallion.
I can never keep all of those different ones straight. The only one I always remember is the baby boa. I had that. It was such a great little knife, hard to hold on to, but had a hell of a spring to it. The thing would just about jump out of your hands, but it was such a neat little design. And unfortunately, I sold or traded it. I really would love to get a hold of another one. So if anybody out there listening has a Kershaw baby boa they'd be willing to part with without, me having to rob a bank, feel free to email us at edctv@multitool.com. So, Inky, do you remember back in the, mid to late 90s, everything on the forums was all about self-defense and fighting knives? Do you remember those days?
Still is, isn't it? In some forms.
Some people think everybody's karate Bob nowadays. What do we call them? Mall ninjas?
Yes, the if you don't know the lore of the Mall Ninja, I strongly recommend that you Google it. It's that is a very spectacular story. But I was thinking back to, and I know you were on knife forums with me at that time, but where everybody would be talking about how you had to have a combo edge blade because what was it? Just a plain blade would bounce off of Thinsulate. Remember Thinsulate was big in the 90s?
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
thin insulation.
Still is.
Well, I'm sure we have better fabrics than that now. It's been 30 years, but I remember all the discussions on knifeforums.com back in the day about how you had to have a combo edge blade because the plain edge would just skate right off of a Thinsulate jacket. And of course, those were so common nowadays. Naturally, that's what all of the muggers were wearing. And I remember lengthy discussions. About how if you were. This is looking back on these discussions, it's just crazy. But they were saying things like. When you're pooping, especially when you're going to the washroom in public, you make sure to take at least one leg out of your pants because that way your ankles won't be tied together if you have to jump up and defend yourself. And my God, what a terrifying time the 90s were. I don't recall ever being assaulted on a toilet, public or otherwise.
Well, you know where they got that from, right? Go back to my knife fight thing. It's prisoners. Prisoners would always take a dump with one leg out of their pant. I'm like, well, it looks like the whole world turned into a prison. I know his name is Jeff. I'm having a hard time with his last name. He ran Gerber for a while, the Gerber production factory for a while. Jeff.
Drawing a blank
His
on
name
that
was
one.
even on a whole bunch of. Yeah, same here. Hold on. Anyway, him and I had a conversation one time, and I said to him, dude, combination blades are not my first pick. If I'm going to do something where I'm processing a lot of fiber, like if I'm out, like say if I'm teaching rope work to somebody, like because I was a scout leader, I'll get a whole serrated blade. If I'm just doing regular carry, most often I get myself a razor edge blade. And so I said to him, I find it hard to believe a lot of people are so into the combo blades. And Jeff Goddard, I think it was, or something like that. Either way, he said to me, would you believe half of Gerber's blades are sold in combo blades? It's 50%. And I was shocked, but apparently more people thought to me. And the sad part too is I think it was Victorinox had a knife where I think they put the serration in the right place. It was towards the tip.
The one-handed
back part
trekker,
was
yes.
razor edge. And so, yes, that's it. And I found that if you were going to have a half serrated blade, you should at least have the power, because there's a power stroke when you do cutting, especially when you do bushcraft, and that's closest to the blade. Your best leverage on any knife is right here. And that's a good spot. I mean, unless you're doing a specific type of cut or shave or scraping, you don't go out towards the edge.
Right.
So if you're going to do a power stroke to get a nice, good, clean cut, it's usually close to your hand, so you've got leverage. And that's coincidentally why you see when people sharpen knives, you see that little S-curve happening, because when everybody thinks if they count the stroke, they'll have an even wear on their knife. No, because they're always putting more pressure in this section of the blade. Long story short, why they kept making these half serrated with the serration down here in your power stroke area, when I think it was actually Victorinox, but Victorinox had it right. They should put the serrated up there, because you can start, if you're doing rope, you might slide along the razor edge, but once you hit that serrated edge, you're gonna take it down. That's where now you can't use the power edge. My 2 cents on that one.
I know someone that used to counter stroke with a vengeance and ended up with a wrist injury. And we had to start a whole thing for him on the forum because he was in trouble.
Bad, where are you, man? If you're out there, man, send us a message.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah,
by the way, sure, go ahead.
No, I think Victorinox got it right. Plus, a knife like that serrations are finer. To me, if you have a combo edge, it should be a much longer blade and less serration. Like a 7-inch blade, maybe 2 inches serration, maybe. And a fixed blade, that's all. Like something from K-Bar or something like that.
Yeah, well,
Just
nowadays,
a knife with a little bit of extra at the bottom you might need.
Nowadays, I'm seeing guys there, and it's more sensible to me at least. They're doing the knives that are being developed are less about personal combat and more about everyday carry and typical everyday use with a certain amount of outdoors and bushcraft thrown in just for the fun of it. But one of the trends I'm seeing nowadays for cutting stuff is guys are going back to cutting paper, or they're cutting hemp rope or sisal rope or something, and they're not doing like in the 90s where you shave your arm hairs. And I think that's great because, let's face it, we all looked kind of silly walking around with just a bald spot in the middle of our forearm just because we wanted to prove how cool we were.
Man,
well,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But it was a good way to test if you had a popping sharp technique for some people. But I used to use the pine method, so people don't realize this. If you're really concerned about your knife being really sharp, if you can cut the cross grain on a piece of pine and it looks like you sanded, polished it, and waxed it, like it's a really fine sheen finish, that's a super sharp knife. Because on softwood, not hardwood, on softwood, if you're dull, you're going to push the fibers and it's going to look like 5 o'clock shadow. But if you got a really sharp knife, you're severing the fibers as you go across it. So, but anyhow, yeah, there's like that, and there's another trend. It's in sharpening and things like that. Sharpening is like, I remember I think people are becoming a little bit more practical about sharpening, because I remember all the guys that used to teach sharpening, especially on YouTube. It was like, oh, there's a mystical, secret, sacred way you have to do it. You have to do it in the full moonlight, bathe yourself in olive oil. They just make it so complicated and difficult.
Sounds nice.
To everybody listening, when you sharpen, you're just polishing. You're trying to get the steel to the highest polish possible that particular steel will take, because the grain structure on each steel is a little different. Simple.
Well, that is the
not complicated.
Typical knife guy conundrum, is it not? Where we, if you want to be a halfway decent knife guy and not one of these, and I know I'm going to insult a lot of people, this is EDC TV at multitool.org.
We're here to insult you.
Please send all complaints addressed to Grant.
But the guys there's a lot of these guys, and you catch them on social media nowadays, that haven't got a bloody clue how to sharpen a knife. And I think that's gotten to the point where, the knives have gotten so available, so mainstream, and so relatively inexpensive that you really don't need to know how to sharpen a knife, because, you're only carrying this for a week or two, and then when it gets dull, you move on to the next thing that you can then post all over Instagram. And I want to say that I find that sort of concept really, really annoying. I mean, I've been sharpening my own knives on whetstones and anything else I can find since the 80s. But and there's an awful lot of gadgets nowadays for sharpening stuff. And honestly, there are some good ones and there are some gimmicks. And my preference is always going to be a flat stone because I'm an old man and I feel that works better. But then I have spent a lot of hours honing that skill. But the idea is I also have more than enough knives that I don't ever have to use the same one twice for the rest of my life. And I know Abe is in the same situation. I'm pretty sure Inky would have been, except he probably traded half of them away at one point or another.
Which is okay. I mean, I used to have a guy, when we're talking about that kind of trend, I used to have a guy who'd buy a knife off of me on blade forums. He'd carry it for maybe like half a month. He'd do a review on it, and then he'd sell it. Just so I called them experiential collectors. They weren't collecting the knives. They were collecting the experience.
Yeah.
And that's
Not
good
that
too.
Inky is, but I'm just saying. Yeah. How about you, Inky? What do you use to sharpen a knife? What's your favorite?
Mostly I use the sharp maker,
That's,
especially on a regular blade. It's amazing for me. Like insane sharpness. Like it's the best one I could use. I'll use a Lansky if I want to reprofile a little bit, kind of file away at it a little. But
Yeah. I get you.
What's that?
I get you. Yeah, if you want to reprofile, it's a good tool because you can set the angle and keep the angle, right? So that's exactly what a former writer, Mike Black's passed away. He used to write for Knives Illustrated and Knife Magazine back before it became Knife World. And what he would do is he would get every knife he had that he brought in to test, and he would make sure the angles were uniformed on each side with a Lansky. And then he'd sit there for hours doing press cuts. He would take that knife and press it through a piece of 1/2-inch sisal rope. So, by the way, if anybody wonders why your knife is razor sharp but you're having a hard time cutting natural fiber ropes, it's because to cut a natural fiber rope, when you put your razor edge up against it, you're compressing the fibers to get close together and your knife can't get a bite. So it actually helps you have a slightly duller knife to cut sisal rope.
Yeah, I remember. Oh my gosh, this is probably early 2000s that this became a thing where everybody had switched to these ultra fine diamond stones, and everybody was just getting that bevel to the point where it was polished to a mirror finish, so you could get like the sharpest knife possible without realizing that you need a little bit of a jagged edge on your edge so that way it will grip what you're cutting.
Micro serrations, right?
Yeah, micro serrations, exactly. That's what we called it, and that's what it is. It's got much better bite, and that's why a lot of these utility razor knives that are coming out nowadays, I kind of don't like them because they all come from the factory with that. And don't get me wrong, it is an extremely sharp blade, as anybody who's ever had to put stitches in their fingers has realized the hard way. But yeah, your knife edge has to be a little bit jagged. You have to be a little less than perfect in order to be useful.
So yeah, again, also too, that depends on what you're normally cutting, right? If you're actually, like for me, like that's why they call them box cutters. Box cutters can be razor sharp because you're cutting through paper. You're cutting a paper item. Yeah. But like I said, if you're processing things like fibrous materials, things like that, the other thing too is blade geometry. It's a hell of a lot easier for me to put a box cutter blade through a rubber hose that I'm cutting because there's not as much ability for the rubber to bite stick.
Right.
So like when I'm working on plumbing or something like that. But yeah, you're right. But the thing too is people forget that you always have micro serrations, right? It's just how far you want to take it. So you can stop. If you want to make your knife have that bite, stop partway down because steel will always have micro serration.
Oh, of course, yeah. If you want to talk about, getting out the electron microscope and really looking at it, then yeah, you're going to see that it is always going to be a jagged edge. I think about some of those blades that have come out that are obsidian, and they talk about how sharp they are, and they put them under the microscope and it still looks like a beautiful straight line. But I just wonder how much bite that has. I mean, not that I think you can't cut with it. I know you can. But that leads into another trend that was probably, was it the late 90s that everybody got into ceramic blades?
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. I pulled one the other day. Sorry. Go. Yeah. I pulled one of my ceramics out the other day.
I paid probably over $200 for a ceramic kitchen knife from Boker in those days.
Hope you didn't drop it.
Well, see, it was a gift from my mom, and my mom treated that thing like it was the sacred dagger of Amun-Ra or something. She wouldn't let anybody else touch it. Every time I came to visit, I would have to bring my diamond stones to sharpen it for her because, of course, she couldn't sharpen it on anything but a diamond. And she loved that thing. And years later, I mean, you're getting them for $6 at the kitchen store in the mall, you know?
Yeah.
But
Dollar store.
yeah,
$2 at the dollar store for a ceramic paring knife.
yeah, and that's crazy to me because those things were fantastic. Anyways, the last quarter inch or so of that knife got broken off somewhere along the line. We don't know who did it, but Mom would hand wash that. She never wanted to let it go in the dishwasher. Absolutely nothing bad could happen to that knife, and I'm sure she was quite horrified when somebody broke the tip off it. But it's still over there in the drawer right now. I guess I should have brought it over if I'm going to be talking about it. I hadn't really intended on being talking about it, but I do recall Kevin Mad Dog McClung was a knife maker back then, and he was experimenting with those in the early days. And I remember he and the magazine writer, I don't remember who the magazine writer was, all I know it wasn't you, Abe, but they had met at a restaurant, and they were talking about his new ceramic knife. And allegedly, the waiter came over and said, "Is that ceramic? Oh, that won't cut anything." And Kevin then picked up a fork off the table and started whittling the handle with the ceramic blade. And that just the image of that always amused me so much that whenever anybody looks at a ceramic blade, I pick up a fork and chop the end off it for them.
Looks amazing, isn't it?
Was a fork made out of plastic? What the hell?
No, it's a steel fork. I mean, forks are generally soft steels, but yeah, you can actually whittle.
Yeah. So it's the thing with trends, because we're talking trends. Let's go back to the original topic, right? And I saw this happen in an online gun discussion. So there's this guy named Hackathorn, very famous gun instructor, but he's an older guy, and he got attacked by the younger gun crowd because he did insult everybody, because people don't listen. I find it really... So if you're going to write in, I'll warn you, because I'll warn you about Grant. If you're going to write in and criticize us on something, you better be accurate about what you criticize us on, because if you are quoting something we didn't actually say, and you just think we heard it because your little tender emotions were hurt, because there wasn't a whole bunch of lovey-dovey, whatever those character from your kindergarten years or your childhood cartoons were in there, then that's your problem. So that everybody thought that he insulted red dots. He simply said, "Is this the greatest thing for shooting?" Like, he basically said, "I've been around so long. There used to be laser grips. There used to be glow-in-the-dark sights and stuff like that." Everybody thought he was saying they're crap. And so when we talk about trends, the same thing can happen to us. And we don't know what the latest, greatest thing is. We've seen a ton of them. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, assisted openers." Well, they're still around. Are they the latest? Are they still the greatest thing? All in your opinion. Will something new come up in knives? We don't know. Somebody might shock us. Like, there's a guy, I forget what his name, he's Spanish. And I met him at the CRKT booth the year I was designing for CRKT. And he came up with a fold-away flipper. On your flipper, there's the nub that sticks out the back, and you grab it and you flip it, right?
Yep.
He came up with one that is folded on a little hinge. You can grab it. As you grab it, it comes back up, and then goes and opens the knife, and then you let it go, and it folds back down, and you don't know it's there.
Interesting.
I thought that was clever.
Kershaw did something a little bit like that. I forget what it was called.
I do like the flipper, but I also find that it does, a lot of, I don't want to say poorer designs, but let's say less well thought out designs. Sometimes that flipper sticks out a little bit too far and, catches on stuff when you're trying to, draw the knife. So while I do like having a flipper, I kind of, it's like everything else. It's got to be done well, or it's just not good.
You're right, and it's like any other design. A good flipper nub is a very well balanced design. You look at Thinsulate. When Thinsulate first started using the flipper, I have a Buck knife that it's clear that Buck knocked off his handle and his flipper nub and just changed out the blade. I looked it up. I didn't see anything. I could be wrong, but I didn't see anything about them consulting him. But as soon as I saw it, I said, "That's a Thinsulate," and then noticed that there was no credit to him. But his flipper nub is a high triangle, Now it works really well, but yeah, in the pocket, you can catch it on something. You can bump it on something. It'll push the blade open. And then you get some. I was using one the other day. I forget which one it was. It might not be even one of mine. It might have been one that I was looking at the store. The flipper was too shallow, too small. You couldn't build up enough momentum on it before. I know it is. There's a Kershaw knife I've got. They got a flipper on it, but it's got a button lock. Why you got a flipper on a button lock? Because you have to unlock the button lock, like on my Benchmade. So you got to unlock this, and at the time you unlock this, the blade starts flipping itself open anyways because of gravity, and then so the flipper is useless to you. And also you can just do that with the button lock. Why they put that on there, I don't know.
Which Benchmade is that there, Abe?
That's the Griptilian. I collect Griptilians. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Great knife.
It is.
Really
It is.
good knife.
And a bunch of us were on knife forums when it came out. And in the forum I was in talking about, which was the Outdoor Survival Forum, a bunch of guys pegged it as, wait, this is going to be a great knife. And you know what? This has not left the Benchmade sales line since the day it was introduced.
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah, it has
good.
been a big seller.
I like the Ritter blade. That was my favorite.
I got one of those too. I got the Ritter blade. This is one of my favorite blades, but although they've got a sheep's hoof blade, that's kind of nice. But this is a good knife. Like, I mean, it's simple. It's a teardrop handle, good texture. I met Mel Pardue, nice guy.
Yeah,
Met
definitely.
his son. I partied with his son. I got a free. You know what he did? We were drinking. We were drinking so much. He looked at me and said, "You got a Mel Pardue knot?" I don't know if I told this story before. And I said, "I've got some of your designs, right?" Because he owned his own company and sold it to Ontario, right? Something, I think it was not like Micro, it was close to Microtech. The name of it was close to Microtech.
Yeah,
And
Joe
he
Pardue.
says, no. Sorry?
Joe Pardue, right?
Yeah, Joe Pardue. He said to me, no. He said, you got a Joe Pardue knot. And I said, oh, no, I don't have one of yours. He says, now you do. And he pulled one out of his pocket and he gave it to me.
Nice.
Yeah, we were that hammered. We
Uh,
were that hammered. I got a free knife. So don't ever, I don't know, I haven't seen him in a long time. Don't try and match Joe drink for drink. Just don't do it.
That
So,
sounds like
I not only got-
good consumer
Don't
advice
try to
right there.
match me. Don't try to match me
I-
pizza for pizza.
So, well, I not only got a free knife off him, I got an invitation to go to his house in Texas and shoot AKs.
You know what
He's
happened?
got his own range at his house.
Last time I got drunk like that, I was at a bar, and there was one guy left, me, the bartender, and another guy, and the other guy was like this. This is pretty much his thing. That's all you saw. The bartender asked me if I could bring him home. I said, seriously? He said, yeah. So this guy's laying on the counter. I'm trying to pick him up. I stand him up, and he falls right on the floor. So I stand him up. I'm going in his pocket to get his wallet. I see where he is, and he falls again. I'm dragging him to the car. I'm holding him against the car. And this was back then, you know, put the key in the lock. I go to open the door, and I keep dropping this poor bastard. So I get him in the car, I get him home, I get him up the stairs, and he falls again. And I'm ringing the bell. I'm all pissed off. I'm holding him against the wall. And his wife comes out. I'm like, is this yours? She said, yeah. Where's his wheelchair?
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
That's such a horrible joke. Jesus Christ. That's terrible. Now, okay, give him that email again so the Handicap Association of North America can
Yes.
call and bitch about that. Give him that joke there, Grant. Give him that email.
That's EDC TV at multitool.org. Going to put that right up here. Make sure that you put in the subject line, I want to take Inky's kneecaps for a walk.
Yeah, we might not get a YouTube Silver Award, but we'll get the award for most complaints for one episode. That's for sure.
Yeah. Terrible.
Oh, boy.
Shit, is there anybody else we can offend? Let's check the list. Let me look at my list. Oh, wait a minute. We haven't offended the. Oh my God.
We got to watch out for the group and not offend the group called DAM, Mothers Against Dyslexia.
Yes,
Be careful
definitely
with those
going
guys, too.
to look after Dam.
Mothers against. That's mad. Mothers against Lex. Damn it.
Damn.
Drunk drivers against mothers.
Yeah,
I think Abe needs to take a moment and Google what dyslexia means.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot. I actually am part dyslexic. There we go. Sorry. I missed that joke.
He's so dyslexic he got the joke backwards.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. That's how dyslexic I am.
You got it from him.
So, no, I do have. They say you can't have minor dyslexia. People don't know dyslexia. You can have. So most of the time, if I'm going too quick, I start my words, when I'm writing them, I start my words from the middle of the word. I start writing from the middle of the word and have to back up and catch the other letters. Yeah, I'm fucked up. So
I noticed some of the smartest people are dyslexic.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but this is a show about everyday carry things. And while it's really great to have a joke holstered and ready to go at a moment's notice.
I always carry my jokes with me.
So, Grant, I'll tell you this. If there's one thing amongst your everyday carry you should carry with you, that's always a good sense of humor.
Can we get Minnie back on the show here for a minute?
She has wandered off and is probably sleeping on my dad's chair while he watches TV. So
there it is.
For those watching at home, before we started recording tonight, I picked up my dad's dog and put her on camera. Of course, we didn't record that section, so yeah, you're just missing out on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So many things happen before the show starts.
All the really great knife discussion happens before it starts and after we stop recording. I don't know what it is about these two, but they don't seem to actually want to talk about knife stuff while we're recording our knife show sometimes. And on that note, gentlemen, I think we are just about out of time for the evening. I had a few more stories I'd been looking forward to telling, but I guess we will do that in future episodes.
So make sure you come back to hear them.
Yes,
we
definitely.
all have some good stories.
And if you have any questions or comments about anything that you hear or see on this show, feel free to get us at edc@multitool.org or have your say on our forum at forum.multitool.org. It's a website with a logo that looks very similar to this one. So, Inky, have you got any final thoughts that you'd like to share before we shut this down this evening? Inky, that's you.
I was just thinking, you wanted me to say anything? What?
Yeah, if you don't mind saying them out loud where we could record them.
Don't use your middle finger to open knives. It's not nice.
Also, don't use your middle finger to hail a cab.
Yes, that's worse.
Although, that once again just shows how old we are, because nowadays you just Uber and you order them through the app. Anyways, how about you, Abe? What have you got that you want to part with tonight? What's your final thought?
Well, my final thought is, like I said, I'm really pleased with how the tool companies and other companies and makers, like there's knife makers that are making tools. I remember when it all started out with just little pry bars and stuff like that. So I guess my final thought is let's hold tight, because now that we got CNC production is cheaper in China. People are sending their designs over there. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens next. Somebody's going to come out with some pretty hot shit, I think. And that's but you can quote me on that. Some pretty hot shit.
Excellent. So that's gonna basically be us for this week. Thank you for listening or watching or however you join us. We greatly appreciate you listening to the ramblings of three old men who talk about how the glory days were so much better than whatever it is that we're doing now, even though we're all still doing it and we're right along for the ride with everybody else. I hate it when content creators do this, but we're going to do it anyway. So please make sure that you hit like or share or follow. Whatever it is on whatever platform you're on, give us a good rating, because we would greatly appreciate it, and it really helps out the channel. Now, please don't comment on the various platforms. Please make sure you make your way to forum.multitool.org and comment there. Why? Because that supports this community, the community that you belong to if you're listening to this, and not some billionaires who don't give a rat's hindquarters about us. That's forum.multitool.org. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you all next week. Take care, everybody.